Good evening and welcome to our incredible presentation today celebrating World Art Day, which was on April 15th. World Arts Day celebrates the fine arts and promotes awareness of creativity worldwide. It was established in 2012 and became official in the United States in 2015. Our program this evening will take us on a virtual tour of the University Galleries at North Carolina AT&T Art Collection. This program would not have been possible without the support and partnership of the university and the links of Fairfield County. We begin this evening's presentation with a few words from Donna Johnson, president of the Fairfield County Links. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and welcome to everyone. It is our honor to partner with the Ferguson Library of Stamford in sponsoring this amazing tour that we're about to experience at North Carolina A&T State University. First, I'd like to thank the university's galleries director, Dr. Paul Baker, who has been so gracious to allow us to do this tour this evening. I'd also like to thank Mrs. Elizabeth Burns, who is a platinum member of our Fairfield County chapter of the Links Incorporated, a valued partner to us as we move forward in helping our communities and developing friendship. And with her is her husband, Dr. Charles Burns, who by his marriage is also a valued member of the Links as well. So we really appreciate you participating this evening. And of course, none of this can get done without the hard work and focus of three phenomenal women that we have on our session tonight. I'd like to thank Kim Kispert, Diane Gellerette, and Valerie Cooper for their hard work in bringing together this amazing tour. So without further ado, I will hand this over to Diane, and let's get started.
All right, thank you, Donna. We are very excited about having this wonderful virtual tour of the University Galleries. But one of the things that we had wanted to do was have everybody and encourage everybody to take a look at a film called Black Art in the Absence of Light. It was a film that was released last year. Simultaneously explores the challenges of Black artists that continue to face in reaching mainstream audiences and the importance of their artwork in the narrative of the American art history. The film takes a hard look at the significant role exhibitions, curators, and collectors play in perpetrating biases and breaking boundaries by underlining historical moments. This film was directed by Sam Pollard. The film introduces the foremost Black artists working today and the artists that preceded them. The film begins with historical footage from the event that inspired the documentary, the landmark 1976 exhibition, 2 Centuries of Black American Art. According to the late artist and curator, David Driscoll, this exhibition, hosted by the Los Angeles County Art Museum, was the first major modern exhibition which brought the Black subject, period, to the American public. So if you haven't seen it, the film's central theme is the Black figure's significance as a subject in artworks and Black artists' representation in museum collections and exhibitions. In a 1976 interview, Driscoll warns against those critics and historians that group all artwork by Black artists together under the label of Black art, because it isolates the Black artist from the canon of American art. The director and producer perhaps chose to underscore the stigma behind the label by using it as the title of the documentary. There was talk in the film about the importance of HBCUs. And some of the comments that were made, I don't see the Studio Museum as the only place for funneling Black talent and into mainstream. I think it's one of the major places I think Black colleges and universities still play an important role in that kind of definition as who becomes as an artist. Without the work of HBCUs, we would not have a repository of African American art that we could draw from. The HBCUs have not been given the credit that they are due. When nobody else was out there championing these artists, HBCUs were there, claiming them, showcasing them, putting them up on the wall and teaching about them. When we think of Clark Atlanta, Spelman College, Fisk University, and Howard, these are all spaces in which Black artists and Black art flourished for hundreds of years. They were the patrons of African American artists, so that's why these institutions now have some of the most important works by those important historical figures. African Americans today feel their artistic forebears have paved the way. So we are here today to take a virtual tour of the Museum of North Carolina A&T. And director is Dr. Paul K. Baker, and he's also a professor of history in the Department of History and Political Science at North Carolina A&T State University. Devoted to service, Dr. Baker currently is a member of the Board of Directors for Arts Greensboro. He has served on the boards of the Raleigh City Museum, South Carolina African American Heritage Commission, and was appointed by Governor Beverly Perdue to the Board of Directors for the North Carolina Museum of History. He is a member of Watts Chapel Missionary Baptist Church and Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity. A native of Fairmont, North Carolina, Baker received his BA from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in Art and African American Studies, his master's from North Carolina State University in Public History with a concentration in Museum Studies, and a PhD from North Carolina A&T State University in Leadership Studies from the School of Education. He completed Harvard University's Management Development Program and Cornell University's Program and Policy Development. Dr. Baker has completed fellowships at Yale University, University of Virginia, and Oxford University in Oxford, England. Now, I'd like to turn over the program to Dr. Baker. And so now that we can take our magical virtual tour of the museum. Dr. Baker.
Good evening. Thank you so much for that introduction and welcome to Aggie Land. Once again, my name is Paul Baker, and I would like to also give special thanks to Valerie Cooper and Diane Gelleret, who served as co-chairs for this event. In addition, the Ferguson Library with Elizabeth Joseph and our A&T alums who are part of this evening's program, Elizabeth Connor Burns and Charles Burns. The Fairfield County chapter of the Links Incorporated, where Donna Johnson serves as president. Many thanks. And then also I would like to say thank you to our chancellor, Dr. Harold Martin, who is a strong supporter of the arts and the galleries at North Carolina A&T. And now we will have, before I begin our tour, a welcome from Dr. Harold Martin, Chancellor of North Carolina A&T State University.
Welcome, distinguished guests and fellow art lovers. On behalf of all of us here at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, and Aggies everywhere, I'm proud to introduce you to our university's galleries, which are comprised of H.C. Taylor Gallery and the Matter Reed Gallery. Our art collections have been called the Southeast's largest repository on the history and culture of African American life in North Carolina. And I can assure you that A&T is building upon that rich tradition and continuing our university's ascent. You may have heard recently that our university is continuing its rise in U.S. News and World Report's graduate rankings, for example. A year ago, we introduced our newest doctoral program, the PhD in Agricultural and Environmental Sciences, through our College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences. In February of this year, we celebrated the grand opening of the Harold L. Martin Senior Engineering Research and Innovation Complex, where numerous groundbreaking research projects are already underway. Students enrollment at North Carolina A&T is rising consistently and substantially every year, even defying the trend seen at most universities during the COVID-19 pandemic. We have a historically high enrollment of 13,322 students now, as we push closer to our goal of 14,000 students by 2023.
We're in our 8th year as America's largest historically Black college and university. We're ranked #1 among HBCUs by Money Magazine and Washington Monthly Magazine. Forbes ranks us as the nation's top public HBCU. A&T's long and growing list of honors and rankings encompass not only strengths in STEM disciplines and excellence in a range of applied research, but also in the vibrant liberal arts and performing arts and visual arts core. Our university galleries house more than 6,000 pieces of African and African-American art, including sculptures, masks, figures, musical instruments, textiles, and household implements. The permanent collection features such distinguished artists as Alma Thomas, Romero Bearden, and Hale Woodruff. More than 35 African countries, from Ethiopia to Nigeria, and other countries in the diaspora, such as Haiti, also are represented in the permanent collection. The university galleries are located in A&T's historic Dudley Memorial Building, which also houses the Department of Visual and Performing Arts. Our 4 freshmen, who touched off the sit-ins of the Civil Rights Movement, are also commemorated in the February 1 monument, which is situated on the Dudley Memorial Building's front lawn. We invite you to visit the galleries and explore our campus in East Greensboro, where you can see all that A&T has to offer. Aggie Pride.
So once again, good evening and welcome to the University Galleries at North Carolina A&T State University. As Chancellor Martin just stated, we are located in the historic Dudley Building on the original historical part of our campus. Our building was actually designed by Charles Hartman, who was part of the architectural firm that designed Biltmore in Asheville, North Carolina, as well as designed Central Park in New York City. So we're very proud of the historic monumental building that houses the University Galleries. The University Galleries building was named after James B. Dudley, who was the second leader of our institution. Just another fun fact, North Carolina A&T State University was founded on the campus of Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina in 1891 and spent the first 4 years in Tupper Hall on that campus before it moved to Greensboro, North Carolina. So we are very proud of our history as an institution. The galleries are comprised of 3 separate exhibition spaces. The Henry Clinton Taylor Gallery, which houses our African-American exhibitions, as well as traveling exhibitions. The Mattie Reed Gallery, which houses the permanent collection of African artifacts and material culture. And newly, the Sculpture Gallery, which houses our 3-dimensional exhibitions that we will start this summer. So we're very happy to begin to start showing work in our Sculpture Gallery. And for those that may be traveling to Greensboro or in the area, we're open Monday through Friday from 10 to 5 and Saturdays by appointment. And we are free and open to the public. To begin, a little story about exhibiting and North Carolina A&T State University that many may not know. We were part of the 1900 Paris Exposition and Negro Exhibition, which is also known as the World's Fair. We were curated by W.B. Du Bois for this exhibition in 1900, and it featured photographs of 7 HBCUs, which included A&T. This really began a tradition on the campus of exhibiting and showing the works of student creatives, even at this early time period. As these photographs show, the one on the far left is an overall exhibit photograph that Du Bois curated. The center photograph is from the practice house that was on campus, which many may know as home economics or dietetics, or today they call it family services, which was part of the women's curriculum at A&T. And then to the far right, we have a butter making class. We know that A&T did have a strong industrial arts program, and this was part of one of their courses in making butter. To begin our Henry Clinton Taylor Gallery, Taylor came to A&T in 1927. He was a Syracuse educated artist, and he founded the art department in 1930. He was also a noted artist and portraiture artist in his own right. He founded the first art gallery in the library in 1928. And we are lucky to have 4 of his works. We see one here of James Benson Dudley, who was our second president, as well as the building namesake for the galleries. Our other pieces are paintings of Richard B. Harrison, James Shepard, who founded North Carolina Central University, and Annie Holland. Next. Okay, the permanent collection. Just to give you an overview about our permanent collection in the university galleries, we are comprised of over 6,000 pieces in our collection. And this ranges from textiles, traditional 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional art, artifacts, and material culture. And let me say that we are very proud of our textile collection as much as our art collection. Within our textile collection, we house several slave quilts. We also house African textiles from the early 19th and mid 19th centuries. So we are very proud of our textile collection as part of our overall repository. Many artists are represented in our collection, but I just wanted to share a couple of artists with you this evening that we feel that you may find an interest in. Alma Thomas, Charles Austin, John Biggers, North Carolina artist, Hale Woodruff, Jacob Lawrence, A&T artist and graduate Vandoorne Hinton, Jeannie Ash, who is the widow of Arthur Ashe, and David Driscoll, who is the creator of the movie that is part of the resources for this evening's program. In addition to that, we are always building our collection. We had a great acquisitions year this year, and we're always looking to build upon our permanent collection. As I stated before, our permanent collection consists of over 6,000 pieces that represent the African diaspora. It spans the 1890s to the 2000s, and it includes a wide range of art, artifacts, material culture, and textiles, and also photography. This is one of the female artists that we have represented in our collection, Blanche Cooper Rivera from 1940, and this is titled Landscape. This piece was part of an exhibition from 2021 that we showed called Finding the Promised Land, African-American Landscapes. We were intrigued by the new trend in African-American landscapes that people such as Bannister had really created a movement in the early 1800s, but now we're seeing their work really becoming more appreciated. So we want to celebrate that trend in 2021 and show an in-person exhibit centered around African-American landscapes. Another one of our artists, I feel, is one of our stellar stars in our collection, Alma Thomas. We are lucky to have 2 pieces in our collection by Thomas. First, she's a noted African-American female artist, of course. Secondly, she was the first art major to graduate from Howard University in 1924. And then her work is so widely represented and widely respected that she became the first African-American woman to have her work in the White House collection. So that makes this piece here even more special to us because it's called Rise of Jupiter from 1974, but the piece that's in the White House collection is almost exactly like this one, except it's a different color variation. So for that, we are really excited that we are able to house 2 pieces by Thomas in our collection. Another side note, First Lady Michelle Obama last year started a year-long celebration of Thomas and her work. So we are, definitely honored to house Alma Thomas's great work in our collection. Jacob Lawrence, another artist that many people may know, but he was known as the Black Picasso by many. He was a cubist in his own right. He taught at Black Mountain College in the mountains of North Carolina, and he produced art for over 70 years until his death in 2000. This piece here from our permanent collection is called Celebration of Heritage from 1991. It's a silkscreen piece by Lawrence, and it's one of 12 pieces of Jacob Lawrence's work that we house in our collection. Piece that has been brought up many times. One of the things that we like to do at the university galleries is to house classes in the galleries. Faculty members actually teach in the galleries, and we do gallery talks, and this work here has been pulled many times for our students to study, to look at, and to have that cultural exposure to great art. Hale Woodruff, who was known as an African-American muralist, who was educated at, of course, Harvard University and the Académie Moderne in Paris. And he painted the noted Amistad murals, which are located at Talladega College. Hale Woodruff, in many cases, is known as one of the pioneers of Black art in America. This piece entitled Torso, which is pencil drawing on paper, is from 1971. We are fortunate to have 9 pieces by Woodruff in our collection that include works on paper, as well as woodcut and linocuts. So we are, this is another piece here that was shown for our portraiture collection and different impressions of portraiture and the female and male form. So we were really overrun with people calling about this specific piece here by Woodruff. So once again, another great artist that we house in our permanent collection. And now we wanted to keep it at Aggie Land and talk about another noted artist that we have in our collection, Vandoorne Hinton, who's a North Carolina African-American artist and also an A&T graduate. His works are very interesting in the fact that he's an African-American impressionist artist. And I know that we have those online that are interested in plein air work and in impressionist work. So this is one of our prime examples of that by Vandoorne Hinton, and it's entitled Travels No. 2, 1964, and it's oil on canvas. This piece is about 4 feet by 6 feet. A huge piece that we have here. And when we show this piece, it's amazing how it really draws people into it because the colors seem to change as you get closer to it there. Some people are seeing, water. Some people see flight and movement in this, but it's a really engaging piece in person and up close. And Varnett Honeywood, one of my favorite artists, I will say, African-American female artist, who's known as one of the first African-American artists to really design her work as a business. She was also an entrepreneur in her own right. She's the first to really market her work into greeting cards, into calendars and posters in the 1970s, moving into the 1980s. So she was really engaged in using her work to get to all the masses. For those that may not be able to purchase art, to be able to purchase a greeting card or a poster. So she was making art available on all levels. This piece that we showed in an exhibition entitled Girl Power is a picture, of course, of women that we know that gossip in the sanctuary, which is the title of the piece, Gossip in the Sanctuary. We know these women that are in church and they haven't seen each other all week long, and they're in church Sunday morning and they're telling about all the things that have happened during the week here. A lot of people come up to this piece and they say, well, I've seen this piece before. And yes, many have seen it before because it was on the Cosby Show for the first 2 seasons. It was located in the kitchen above the fireplace. So if you ever watch early episodes of the Cosby Show, you will see this piece in those sets there. New exciting work that we're bringing in. We want to make sure that we are capturing those artists who are on trend now, those African-American artists who are really out there being creatives, are out there really making great work in their own right, in their own vein. And with that, we received a donation by Arthur Primus, who is a Houston businessman and one of the financial backers for Tyler Perry. This artist, Curtis James, who is a Pratt Institute graduate, is chiefly an African-American children's book illustrator. As a young child, he remembers growing up and not seeing images of people that look like him in children's books. So as he grew into an artist and into his own field and became very successful in his own field, he started to create illustrations for children's books. That was his way to diversify the children's book market and to create pride within African-American youth. This here is a piece of 15 from a collection of 15 that were donated entitled Freedom Ship. This is about the story of Robert Smalls from Charleston, South Carolina, who drove a Confederate ship out of the port of Charleston and was able to free 87 slaves in doing that. So this is one of the children's books that we read to our summer children's programs that come in. We want to make sure that we expose children very early to art. So we will exhibit these works in our sculpture gallery, and we will have a student to read the story from the book. So they actually experience the original art and the book at the same time. So that experience, we hope will give them a cultural exposure that will last for them throughout their years in Greensboro and even further as they move into their own lives and careers. So we're very interested in cultural exposure for African-American youth at a very early age. Another one of our gifts that was donated by Arthur Primus, the works of Brian Collier. And Brian Collier is a collage artist. Many people, when they look at his work from far off, they think it's a painting. But when they get up close to it, they actually see that it's a collage made out of cloth, cutouts from magazines and colored paper, construction paper, leather, and other pieces of found materials that he will create into these wonderful collage works. And he, like Curtis James, was out there looking for children's books that were diverse for his own children, could not find those. So once again, he went into the market of creating illustrations for children's books. He calls his work music in many cases because he said there's a rhythm to his work. And his work is in the collections of Will Downing, who's an R&B artist, as well as the athlete Grant Hill. So he's really moving his work into places and spaces for that exposure. A little bit about this collection called Rosa. Of course, it's from the children's book written by Nikki Giovanni, but he actually took the work to Rosa Parks and had asked her to review it and approve it before it was published. And she actually approved it the year before she passed away. So we have great provenance for this collection of works entitled Rosa. What better way to celebrate Rosa Parks than to have works that she actually handled and approved herself? From our new acquisitions, which we are very proud of, and that we will continue to really move forward in bringing in new works, whether by established artists or up-and-coming artists. And the first is on the left, Jeannie Ash, who, as I stated before, is the widow of Arthur Ashe. She donated a collection of 25 photographic works entitled Defosky Islands, which is the center of Gullah culture off the coast of South Carolina and Georgia, that she photographed in the early 1980s. This collection was on exhibition at the Smithsonian, and after it left there, we were fortunate enough for her to donate those pieces as well as the proofs to the photographs to our permanent collection. The next in the middle is Jacob Lawrence. That's a very recent acquisition of 8 works by Jacob Lawrence from his Hiroshima series. So very unusual in an African-American artist creating works of subject around non-African-American eras. But this is the case with Jacob Lawrence in Hiroshima. So we are definitely looking forward to utilizing that for both virtual and for in-person exhibitions. And then our last new acquisition for this year is Sandra Miller. If we could just go back 1 second from the previous, yes, thank you. Sandra Miller, who is a Afro-Latino artist that we were in contact with, and he came by the University Galleries, was very interested in the work that we were doing, especially in creating a group of new museum professionals of color. As we move forward, we want to make sure that we have a museum that is approachable and a museum that we are using as a laboratory to train new African-American professionals in the field. There are very few. So we're looking at building up that number with new courses that we launched last fall, the Introduction to Museum Studies. This semester taught a new course entitled Museum Collecting and the African-American Experience. So we're looking at really molding and creating new professionals of color in the museum field, where students now are actually not only hanging work, but they're doing lighting work, they're doing label copy. So they're really engaged in what the museum exhibition experience is, to ensure that they will have all the tools that they need to become as marketable as possible. Next slide, please. And we want to make sure that we have a really strong exhibition schedule as well as program schedule. We want to make sure that we are doing things that are on trend, as well as introducing unknown stories in the arts and material culture about the culture and the experience of the African diaspora. And with that, we have a piece here, Landscape. Charles Austin, who is a Harlem Renaissance artist that we have utilized several times in gallery talks as well as exhibitions centered around landscapes. But our goal is to expose our students, as Dr. Maddie Reed did from the 1940s to the 1960s and even 70s, to expose A&T students to material culture and the arts. This past fall semester, October to December, we co-sponsored an exhibition at the galleries that was entitled Willie Otake, African-American Designer, who was an African-American fashion designer from the 1920s to the 1960s. She was a phenomenal woman in the fact that she had a talent of creating art through textiles and material. She was able to look at dresses and be able to replicate those exact dresses by memory. One fun story is that she was not allowed to go in many department stores in downtown Raleigh, because she would go in, take a mental note of a dress, go home and recreate it for someone. So she was very talented in her work. We had the privilege of bringing in her family. She had 7 children, and she sent all of them to college as a dressmaker. Her husband was a medical doctor in Wilmington and passed away early, so she had to make a living in the 1920s as a widowed mother, and she did just that during that time period of Jim Crow. For an African-American woman to be a successful businesswoman during that time period is phenomenal, and she did it. She was a member of the Raleigh chapter of the Lynx and did a lot of prototype textiles and designs for the Lynx Incorporated. So she was really engaged on all ends of her work. This was probably one of the largest turnouts that we've had for exhibitions in about 2 years. And we had this during COVID. So we really had a lot of people from across the country, from costume societies, from the West Coast, to fly in to see these works here. And we're co-sponsored with the North Carolina Museum of History because one of our initiatives in the next 3 years is to attain Smithsonian affiliate status. We want to become part of the Smithsonian family. So that is part of what we're doing to be able to be more validated in certain spaces of grant writing and in getting certain exhibitions through the Smithsonian. So we're moving forward in that direction, and we're doing it with these examples of exhibitions by Willie K. And as a side note, Willie K's great-great-great-grandson will be attending North Carolina A&T State University in the fall. So it was great that he had a chance to actually come to the opening as a high school senior, and now he is confirmed to be a freshman in the fall. Another program that we hosted because we wanted to, during the fall semester, look at the component, the intersection of art and fashion. We also wanted to look at the role of African-American women as creatives in their own medium, in their own right, whether it was in the 1920s or in the 2020s. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to, almost a century later, still look at African-American women as creatives. And we did just that with Kennedy Carter. We were able to bring her in to do a lecture as well as a master class with students that were really engaged. One of the things with Ms. Carter, before I talk about her a little bit, she talked about how she utilizes social media to push her work out there as an artist, which really engaged our students and gave them another way of marketing their work as artists and as creatives. So the information she provided our students in the master class really gave them that next level tool that they needed to push their own artwork out there. Now, Ms. Carter is very significant as a photographic artist, but also because she was the first woman of color, first person of color, and youngest person to photograph the cover of British Vogue magazine. She did this at the age of 22. So phenomenal career that is, steadily going up. Our students, of course, were very interested in meeting someone who worked directly with Beyonce. And, from that, we really were able to engage and look at creatives and women on many, many different levels. Our current exhibit that we have up now is centered around Thomas Day. Thomas Day, who was born in 1801 and passed away in 1861, was an African-American furniture maker in Caswell County, North Carolina, which is located on the Virginia line. Thomas Day is a noted cabinet maker, furniture maker, and an artist in his own right. In the 1840s, he had the largest furniture making business in North Carolina, which is phenomenal for an African-American man, a freedman, to have the largest furniture making business in the entire state. By the 1850s, he produced a quarter of all the furniture in North Carolina. Once again, a major feat. I had the opportunity to read one of his newspaper articles, advertisements from 1848, and he said, "We can do everything from cradle to grave, that we make cradles, and we also make coffins and everything in between." So he even had a sense of humor in the 1840s. He also purchased slaves as a freedman, gave them apprenticeships in his furniture making shop, taught them how to make furniture, and then gave them their freedom. So he was able to teach slaves how to make furniture, gave them a livelihood, and then gave them their freedom, to the points where we see his apprentices setting up shops in Richmond, Virginia, in the Hampton Roads area, in Savannah, Georgia, in Charleston, South Carolina, in Columbia. So his impact was not just in Caswell County, North Carolina, but it extended far out from his apprenticeships that he was able to create with these former slaves. So a noted person in his own right. The picture on the left, of course, is a recreated image of Thomas Day. The image in the middle is a rocker chair that is affiliated with the Governor Reed family, that is from 1851. And then from our own personal collection, we actually house two pieces of Thomas Day's furniture in our permanent collection. Is a dresser from 1848 here. So a lot of his furniture was in the Federalist Empire period. We see a lot of, in his work, a lot of Egyptian motifs that are centered in his work and his pieces, partly because Napoleon visited to Egypt in 1810 and then brought back those designs with him, and that kind of flourished this Federalist empire style throughout the country and throughout the world, to be exact. So he was able to actually recreate many pieces of furniture based on this in the federal period. Remarkable story, his wife was a slave in Virginia, and he actually made a deal with the governor of Virginia to make furniture for him in exchange for his wife's freedom. So remarkable story of a freedman's life, a freedman family in the early 1800s. To support this ongoing exhibition, we hosted Jerome Bias, who is an African-American cabinet maker and artisan who makes and designs and creates furniture very similar into the style of Thomas Day. So he actually came in and did a master class and program for our students, taught them woodworking, how to create art out of wood. And here are two pieces that Jerome Bias has created that he recreated out of Thomas Day's original designs. One is this chest. Here we also have a chest, a Moravian chest that is in our collection. And this Moravian chest is an example of the working together of the races in the 1840s. This chest had Moravian influences. Thomas Day actually hired Moravians to work for him. And this is the only documented example in North Carolina of white people working for an African-American at that time period. This is the only example that we have documented of this case of racial employment in North Carolina. And then we have another side chair that Jerome Bias recreated in the Thomas Day style. So once again, we are very proud of our collection at North Carolina A&T State University. We'd love to show you all 6,000 pieces that we have in our collection, but we cannot do that. But we would invite you to come to A&T to see what we do have and do offer in our collection. Once again, thank you so much for this great opportunity. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. That was just absolutely fabulous. I'm ready to come down and take a look. And as I said, I'm in the museum world, so I may be asking you for some pieces that we may show up here. So it's very, very impressive. I think you're well on your way for the Smithsonian affiliation. But before we come to the Q&A, I'm going to ask anybody who has questions for Paul to please put them into the chat. But in the meantime, we are going to have Mrs. Elizabeth Burns on. Elizabeth?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Dr. Baker, for a wonderful tour of the museum and what great artwork of African Americans that we have. What a treasure. As I say, I am a graduate, 1960 graduate of A&T, and my husband, Charles, he's a 1959 graduate of A&T. We come back often to visit at A&T, and we rarely miss the great homecomings.
Yes.
That is known around the world as the greatest homecomings on earth. And despite our long relationships with the university, we learned so many new things about the galleries that are housed there. We are so proud of the art collection that has been curated throughout the years for all of us to enjoy. And what a wonderful treasure that we have. And now I will turn this over to Diane Jellorette and Valerie Cooper for a Q&A session.
Okay, thank you so much. Valerie, are you on?
I am on, and I'm just overwhelmed with that wonderful tour that Dr. Baker just gave. Well, that was fabulous. I cannot wait to visit in person.
Yes.
Cannot wait. So we're gonna ask a few questions, chat. And Diane, do you want to start with
I'll
the first
start.
one?
Yep,
Okay.
I certainly will. Okay, Paul, please say again the name of the collection that showcased African American landscape artists. Something like the Promised Land?
Yes, Finding the Promised Land.
Oh, good, good,
Yes.
good. Next up, when are the galleries open to the public? Do you need to arrange a visit in advance?
We are open Monday through Friday from 10 to 5 p.m. and we're open Saturdays by appointment. If you're coming from out of town, feel free to set up an appointment in advance and we can do a private behind the scenes tour for you.
Oh, that is absolutely wonderful. We're getting great kudos for you and the presentation, and Elizabeth bringing Aggie pride to this session. Again, if anybody else has any other questions for Dr. Baker, please put them in the chat. Valerie, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I actually have a few questions on this side. The first one is, even though the collection was started years ago, is there a current mission statement today? Are you looking to collect a particular genre of art, artists from North Carolina, perhaps? What is the mission of the collection?
The mission in our collection development policy right now, and that changes as the collection changes, but we're looking to incorporate more African-American female artists, looking to create a place and space for more modern art that African-Americans have created, original art. Those are some things that we're really looking at. Our sweet spot in our collection runs from Harlem Renaissance to modern. Those are the areas that we're really looking at. And we want to build upon those Alma Thomas pieces that we have. Definitely want to build upon those and create a substantial collection of her works as well.
Awesome. So following on along with that question, Paul, as you know, a lot of collections in the past have been built based on donations.
Yes.
Often people are looking to donate for various reasons. One of the main reasons is for, to help the collection grow, but also for tax write-offs.
Yes.
But I know that to prevent your collection from becoming a dumping ground, if you will, and others as well, a lot of HBCUs are now formulating donation policies.
Yes.
So if someone wanted to donate a work of art to North Carolina A&T, what is the criteria? What would they do?
Great question. First, as the process they would send a letter of interest, a letter of intent. They would send a set of slides or images of the works. We would review those, and that's when the process would start on our end. From there, we would look at the artists. We would look at the storage space. We would ask for any conditioning issues from the collection they'd like to donate. And from there, we would, as a staffing committee, we would actually vote on that particular collection. With that, we do collect chiefly African-American, African diaspora work. However, we do have about 5% of our collection that is represented outside of that arena. For example, we have pieces by Alexander Calder as well. So we have pieces that run outside of that gamut. But within that, we look first at the African-American experience. From there, we look at conditioning, and then we look at, will this be a pieces or a piece that will fit into future exhibitions that we have as well.
Okay.
And size also is also made in size.
Exactly.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that. Diane, do you have a question from your side?
Yes, I do. There's something, they want you to apply for a grant for the North Carolina Arts Council. So don't forget that as you're moving forward.
Okay.
And there's another question. Is the collection focused on historical artists or contemporary?
Both. We are looking at both. We feel that a well-rounded collection would have both. When I create exhibitions, I like to have noted, grounded artists, such as Mayor Bearden, right beside Curtis James. So you have that kind of nuance between a older established artist and then a newer artist that's up and coming. We also do curated opportunities. where community members can come in, select a piece that will be placed into an exhibition as well. So we like to get that community buy-in and student buy-in as well.
Oh, that's a wonderful idea. I like that idea. Yeah, get everybody involved.
Exactly.
Yep. That is all for the Q&A chat. Thank you so much for the presentation and opening up the museum to the rest of the world. Doing it virtually has worked out. As I said, I think you will get a lot of people very interested in what you have. So I want to thank you. I want to thank the links, Donna Johnson, Valerie Cooper, Kim Kispert, and the rest of the Links organization for participation. I'd like to thank the Ferguson Library, Elizabeth Joseph, for hosting this today, and all our attendees that have come and learned and enjoyed this presentation. Elizabeth Joseph, if there's anything else that you want to say before we shut
Yes,
down.
I want to thank Paul for this really just incredible presentation. It really makes me excited to come visit your collection, by the way, and get that sort of behind the scenes tour.
Yes.
I want to thank the Lings. I want to thank Valerie and Diane for bringing this program to us, and two wonderful people to work with. We are recording this program and you will have access to it. So we will be sending that message out. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
hosting.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent.
Good night.